Hi everyone, Jill Foster here, bringing you the next video in my series Simply Shimmerz, Simply Penny Black Stamping, where I'm combining two of my favorite things, Shimmerz paints and penny black stamps. And here's a little peek at the stamping and painting we'll be doing today. And in this series, my focus is really on just basic stamping techniques and sitting back and relaxing and enjoying the painting process. The paints that I'll be using today are the Shimmerz Creamies, and these paints have a beautiful sort of satin finish to them. And the stamps that I'm using are Penny Black's Good Neighbors and Cheery Chirps. And these images are really perfect for paint. They have lots of detail and really easy to color. So this is the stamping and card that we'll be doing in today's video. And I'm beginning by working with Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. And I just have this sitting, actually, I tore off the back of the watercolor paper sort of notebook. And I like to use this to sort of mask off these edges of the image. And this also helps keep the paper from warping. You can do this on a board, but I think this is just a little bit more portable, and I can do multiple images at once. So I like to pre-stamp a lot of things and then just have them ready to paint whenever I can get a chance to sneak over and do some painting. So I rubbed an anti-static bag onto the paper because I'm going to be embossing this. And I inked my stamp with Versamark Onyx Black ink, and I'm just stamping that down. And I'm going to sprinkle this with clear embossing powder. And because the Creamies paints are a little bit opaque, especially if you don't water them down very much, I like embossing the image because then it remains nice and strong even when the paints go over the top of it. You can easily get the paint over the line art of the image. So I used my heat gun to set that, and the Creamies paints you just spritz with water to activate. I like to let them sit like 10 minutes. The longer you let them sit, the creamier and thicker and bolder the color is. I'm very generous with the water. I basically spray it into the little pot until it is filled up. And the first color I'm using is called Firm Foundation. And I'm just painting the birdhouses, covering it with this color. I'll go back and do a little shading. I wanted to show you here some of that shimmer. Like I said, it's a very beautiful sort of subtle satin finish. And this is with it wet, but it dries with that finish as well. So I painted both of those birdhouses, some select areas with Firm Foundation, and then I also added the trim with Green Acres. And here's just a little trick if you want to add some shading or sort of change your colors around. I just mix those two colors together, and then I'm going to go back and use this sort of hybrid color to add a little bit of shading to the birdhouses. So I'm just dropping that new color in right on top. And what's really fun with these Creamies paints is because of that shimmery texture, they really do some cool things when you layer them. So you get they sort of rehydrate with the water, and you can remix them. You can also, as you see here, it's very easy to remove color. So if you're like me and you forget to leave a highlight on your image, which can really add a lot of movement, you can just wet the area, then go back with a drier brush and lift the paint very easily, just as I'm doing there. This is a really handy thing, and I find the Creamies paints allow this very, very easily. So I added that shading, and then I went ahead and added some of the daffodil ink, and don't be scared, it looks a little different right now, but I'm going to add a couple other layers on top, and it ends up this beautiful gold with this bright lemony undertone of this daffodil color. And when I watercolor, this is what I do. I just keep playing around with different layers until I'm happy with the look. So there might be a stage where it doesn't look so pretty, but I just keep layering and then until I'm happy with that. And here's the color I put on top of that daffodil. This is called My Clementine, and that just ends up drying into a beautiful gold color. So the daffodil and the My Clementine are a really nice pair. I use those two together a lot. And there you can see I'm just again sort of removing some of that color by wetting it down and then going back with a dry brush and lifting it up. And now I'm just going to paint these different flowers in. So like I said, this image, The Good Neighbors by Penny Black, is really fun for painting. You could stamp this image multiple times and just do different variations, different colors on it. It would make a fun gift set to send out to someone that they could then use the cards. The color that I'm adding here is called Berry Hot. And again, I'm doing that lifting technique to add some shading to the flower. But because this image is so detailed, you really don't have to do much, if any, shading, and it turns out looking really pretty and really finished in the end, whether you shade or you just paint in the color flat. And with that satin finish, that also adds a lot of visual interest once the card is done. The next color I'm adding is called Good Ol' Summertime. And this I'm doing just like I said, I'm just painting it in. So I'm not doing any particular shading techniques, just coloring it in, which is so relaxing. You don't have to think much. You can just keep painting and coloring. And I'll sort of speed things up here so I don't bore you too much with my painting. And I have all of these exact colors and stamp numbers and names listed at the end of the video as well. Here I'm using that daffodil and my clementine combination to add just a touch of that yellow gold in the image. And you can see there when you put that my clementine on, it just becomes a beautiful, beautiful color. And I'll continue just mixing those and adding them in. And you can put it right on top while it's still wet. And here I decided I wanted to just darken this red up on a few of the flowers. So I'm using the color Trippin' in the Tropics to do that. To paint the leaves, I'm using Green Acres, which is also the green that was used up on the trim of the birdhouses. So this will tie that color in down here at the bottom. And I'm so sorry about my head there. I had to peek over to make sure I was getting things where I wanted them. So for the background, I'm using the color, I'm just looking, Sage It Isn't So. And behind my head, I promise, all I'm doing is just painting that on. And then at the part where it starts to go up higher into the sky, I just add water to blend it. And with the finish of these Creamies paints, as you add more water and more layers, you will get some really great textures, which you'll see at the end of the card, or at the end of the video. This next color is called Ride the Tide. It's a very nice light blue for backgrounds and even shadowing. And I'm just painting it on like I did with the Sage It Isn't So color. A combination of paint and water will help blend that. Because there is a lot of open area, the texture and the satin finish is really fun for this background. And then I also went in here with a darker color. This is called Boogie Boardin' Blue, around the outer edges, and then went back. I dabbed some of it up with a dry paper towel, and then also added water to blend that as well. And I used that same color to paint the birds. Now, one thing I like to do with these images, because I didn't do a lot of shading on the actual flowers, the birds, etc., is add a little shadow along the stems. And a great color for this is the Thunderstorm. And I just paint it very lightly along the stems and then go back with water to lift and blend that color. So it's very subtle, but it does finish things off nicely. I covered most of the image with a piece of scratch paper, and I'll add a few splatters with the Ride the Tide blue. And I just filled in some of that open area around the outer edge. And here's my favorite part, peeling back the masking tape. I just love how that creates that border while keeping it as a one-layer stamped and painted image. And here's a look at the finished card. To finish things off, I just distressed the edges a little bit and mounted it onto my note card. And there you can see that mounted onto the note card. So very simple stamping and painting. And like I said before, I like to stamp a lot of things in advance. So another image that I stamped and then used these same paints was the Cheery Chirps. And here's a look at that card. that was painted with those same colors of Creamy's paints. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video and want to see more, please be sure to subscribe to both the Shimmerz and Penny Black YouTube channels. For all the ways you can connect with and shop Shimmerz and Penny Black, I've linked everything up for you in the YouTube description box below. And as an added bonus, if you're placing a Shimmerz order, be sure to mention my name in the comment section of your order so you can receive free paint. And here's the list of all the supplies and colors used in today's video.